They threw a police officer and her K9 from a helicopter. They survived the fall. No one should. The night sky over the mountains was moonless, a heavy black curtain stretching endlessly in every direction. A police helicopter thundered through the darkness, its blades slicing the cold air as if trying to escape something unseen. Inside, Officer Emily Carter tightened her grip on the metal floor, her heart pounding louder than the engine itself. Beside her sat Rex, her German Shepherd K9 partner of 5 years, muscles tense, ears alert, eyes locked on her face. Emily had faced danger before. High-speed chases. Armed suspects. Hostage situations. But nothing felt like this. This mission was supposed to be routine. An anonymous tip had led Emily and her unit to a remote mountain compound suspected of smuggling weapons. But halfway through the flight, everything went wrong. The pilot's voice cracked over the headset, "We've got company." Another helicopter appeared out of the darkness, unmarked. No lights. No response on any frequency. Within seconds, the police helicopter shuddered violently as something struck its tail. Warning alarms screamed. The aircraft lurched sideways, plunging toward the forest below. Chaos exploded inside the cabin. 2 men in black tactical gear, faces hidden, movements precise, forced their way inside from the rear door. They weren't police. They weren't military. And they weren't there to negotiate. Emily reached for her weapon, but one of the men kicked it out of her hand before she could draw. Rex snarled, launching forward, but a sharp crack echoed as a stun device discharged, sending the dog collapsing with a painful yelp. Rex. Emily screamed, crawling toward him. A gloved hand slammed her back against the wall. "You saw too much," one of the men said calmly, almost bored. "This ends now." They didn't shoot her, that would have been too easy. Instead, they dragged Emily and her unconscious K9 toward the open side door. Below them, the mountain forest stretched thousands of feet down, a black, endless void. Emily struggled, clawing at the metal frame, screaming for her team. But the helicopter crew had already been restrained. No one could help her. One of the men leaned close. "No body. No questions." Then they pushed, the world vanished. Emily felt weightless for a single, terrifying heartbeat, then the air ripped the scream from her throat as she fell. She wrapped her arms around Rex's body instinctively, pulling him close as the ground rushed toward them. She had no plan. No parachute. No chance. They crashed through the treetops, branches snapping and tearing at them like claws. Pain exploded through Emily's body as they slammed into the slope, tumbling violently downhill. Rocks smashed into her ribs. Something cracked in her shoulder. The world spun, then went black. Emily woke to silence, not the peaceful kind, but the heavy, suffocating quiet that follows disaster. Her vision blurred as she struggled to breathe. Every inhale felt like knives in her chest. Snowflakes drifted lazily from above, settling on her face. She was alive, she didn't know how. She turned her head weakly. "Rex," a soft whine answered her. Rex lay half buried in leaves and snow, bleeding from his side, but alive. His eyes met hers, filled not with fear, but determination. Slowly, painfully, he dragged himself closer and pressed his head against her chest. Emily cried then. Silent tears sliding down her frozen cheeks. They had survived the fall. No one should, but surviving the fall didn't mean surviving the night. Emily assessed her injuries with shaking hands. Her shoulder was dislocated. One leg burned with a deep, sharp pain, probably broken. Her radio was shattered. Her phone gone. They were miles from civilization, deep in hostile terrain, and whoever threw them out of that helicopter would likely want confirmation they were dead. Rex whimpered, trying to stand. "No," Emily whispered. Stay with me." She used her belt to bind his bleeding side as best she could, then dragged herself closer to a fallen tree for cover. Every movement stole her breath. Hypothermia crept in fast, wrapping icy fingers around her thoughts. Hours passed. Or minutes. Time meant nothing anymore. Just as Emily's consciousness began to fade again, Rex's ears snapped upright. He growled low, struggling to his feet despite the pain. Footsteps, crunching snow. Emily forced her eyes open, heart racing. Two shadowy figures moved between the trees, scanning the ground with flashlights. They should be here, one voice muttered. Searchers, not rescuers. Rex didn't wait for a command. With a sudden burst of strength fueled by loyalty and instinct, he lunged forward, barking fiercely. The sound echoed through the forest, loud, defiant, alive. The men cursed in surprise. Dog. Before they could react, Rex attacked, buying Emily precious seconds. She grabbed a fallen branch and smashed it against a rock, creating sparks. Then she fired her last flare cartridge from a cracked emergency launcher she'd barely managed to salvage. The red light exploded into the sky. Miles away, a rescue team saw it. Back in the forest, the attackers fled, disappearing into the darkness as the distant sound of helicopter rotors grew louder. Rex collapsed beside Emily, exhausted but victorious. "You did good," she whispered, pressing her forehead to his. "You saved us." Emily woke up again, this time to bright lights and voices shouting orders. She was being lifted onto a stretcher. "Officer Carter is alive." A medic leaned over her. "You're safe now." Emily turned her head weakly. Rex lay on another stretcher nearby, tail thumping faintly despite his injuries. She smiled. Weeks later, the story made headlines around the world. Police officer and K-9 survive impossible fall. Investigations uncovered a massive criminal operation tied to the unmarked helicopter. Arrests followed. Questions were answered, but for Emily, the only thing that mattered was that she and Rex were still together. At a small ceremony months later, Emily stood with her arm in a sling as Rex sat proudly at her side, a medal resting against his chest. "They tried to erase us," Emily said quietly. "Instead, they reminded me why we fight." Rex barked once, sharp and strong. "Some falls are meant to end lives," theirs became a legend.